Welcome to a world of sweet indulgence where we create the most delightful desserts, guaranteed to fatten up your guests with pure decadence. Today we're embarking on a culinary adventure to create a truly irresistible masterpiece, the decadent chocolate salted caramel cake. Imagine the rich cocoa caressing the sweet and salty caramel, culminating in a dessert that's as visually stunning as it is delicious. Before we dive into the ingredients, let's spare a thought for poor old Grandpoof. He once attempted to make this very recipe, but in a tragic mix-up used husky poo instead of chocolate and rat poison instead of raspberry liqueur. The result was a dessert disaster that led to his loving wife and daughter spending a week on the toilet. But don't worry, we'll ensure you avoid Grandpoof's gaffe. It's a journey of flavours that promises to fascinate your taste buds and leave your guests with wonderful memories, not toilet troubles. Ready to whip up this delicious masterpiece? Let's get started. First things first, gather all your ingredients. For the cake, you'll need 340 grams of unsalted butter, softened, the same amount of caster sugar, a teaspoon of salt, 6 large eggs, 265 grams of self-raising flour, and 75 grams of sifted cocoa powder. Now let's move to the salted caramel sauce. Grab 225 grams of granulated sugar, 60 milliliters of water, 125 milliliters of double cream, 60 grams of cubed unsalted butter, and 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt flakes. And finally, for the chocolate glaze and shards, you'll need 300 grams of Butlers 40% salted caramel milk chocolate bar, a total of 775 milliliters of double cream, with 600 milliliters set aside for the filling. With all your ingredients ready, it's time to bake. Let's start by creating the base of our cake. The chocolate sponge. This is where the indulgence begins, my friends. First, we'll preheat the oven to a cozy 180 degrees C, then get those 320 cm round cake tins lined and ready for action. Now, let's cream together 340 grams of softened, unsalted butter, 340 grams of caster sugar, and a pinch of salt. This will create a sweet, creamy base for our sponge. The key here is to ensure the mixture is light and fluffy, so take your time. No need to rush. Once we have our base, we'll add in our 6 large eggs, one at a time. Remember to beat well after each addition. This will ensure our sponge is rich and moist. After all, no one likes a dry cake, right? Next, we'll incorporate 265 grams of self-raising flour and 75 grams of sifted cocoa powder. This will give our sponge that rich, chocolatey flavour we all know and love. Remember, sifting is key to avoid any lumps. Now that we have our luxurious sponge mixture, it's time to divide it evenly between our prepared cake tins. We're aiming for 3 layers of chocolatey goodness. Once divided, slide those tins into the preheated oven and let the magic happen. We'll bake these for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until a skewer inserted into the middle comes out clean. That's when you know your sponge is perfectly baked. Once baked, let the sponges cool in the tins for about 10 minutes. This will make them easier to handle. After that, transfer them onto a wire rack to cool completely. This is important as it prevents the sponges from becoming soggy, and just like that, we've created our chocolate sponges. While they're cooling, let's shift our focus to the star of the show, the salted caramel sauce. But that's a story for another scene. Now that our sponges are cooling, let's create the star of the show, the salted caramel sauce. Creating a smooth, rich caramel sauce is an art. It's a delicate dance of heat and timing that, when done right, results in a velvety concoction that can elevate any dessert. So, let's begin our caramel journey. First, we'll need to combine 225 grams of granulated sugar and 60 milliliters of water in a medium-sized saucepan. Stir this mixture over medium heat until the sugar has fully dissolved. Next, we'll turn up the heat and bring our sugar-water mixture to a boil. Now this is where the magic begins. As the water evaporates, the sugar starts to change colour, transforming from a clear liquid to a beautiful amber hue. It's vital to keep a watchful eye on your pan during this stage, as sugar can go from caramelised to burnt in a blink of an eye. Once we've achieved that perfect amber colour, we'll remove our saucepan from the heat. Now be careful, the next step can get a bit steamy. We're going to slowly pour in 125 millilitres of double cream while continuously stirring. The mixture will bubble up violently, but don't be alarmed. That's just part of the caramel making process. After the cream is fully incorporated, we'll add 60 grams of cubed, unsalted butter and 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt flakes. Stir until the butter has melted and the salt is evenly distributed. The salt not only enhances the sweetness of the caramel, but also adds a delightful crunch that contrasts beautifully with the smoothness of the sauce. Finally, let the caramel sauce cool. As it cools, it will thicken, transforming into a rich, pourable sauce that's ready to drizzle over our chocolate sponges. That's it, a simple yet elegant salted caramel sauce that's sure to impress. While our caramel sauce cools, let's make our shiny chocolate glaze. Our heavenly cake is topped with a glossy chocolate glaze, a perfect treat to fatten up your guests with decadence. Now let's dive into this delightfully sinful creation. The first thing we want to do is melt 150 grams of our chosen Butlers 40% salted caramel milk chocolate bar. This can be accomplished using a double boiler or your handy microwave. Once our chocolate has beautifully melted, we'll spread it thinly on parchment paper and pop it into the refrigerator, where it'll soon transform into our crunchy chocolate shards. While this is happening, let's take a moment to remember poor old Grandpoof. In a tragic baking mishap, Grandpoof mistook husky poo for chocolate and rat poison for raspberry liqueur while attempting a similar recipe. The result was horrifyingly unforgettable. His wife and daughter spent an entire week paying homage to the porcelain throne. So, my dear bakers, let's make sure to double-check our ingredients. Back to our creation. As our chocolate hardens into the perfect crunch in the fridge, we can move on to the glossy glaze. We'll need an additional 150 grams of chocolate, chopped into small pieces. After setting these aside, we'll heat 175 millilitres of double cream until it's just about to boil. Now remember, we don't want it to boil. Once heated, the cream is to be poured over the chopped chocolate and stirred. It might take some patience, but keep at it until you have a mixture that's glossy and smooth. Congratulations! You've crafted a merely irresistible chocolate glaze and shards that will not only introduce a lavish appeal to your cake, but also impart a delightful crunch. The contrasting textures will certainly make your dessert a showstopper. With all parts of our masterpiece prepared, let's bring them together. It's time to bring all our components together and create our decadent dessert. This is where the magic happens, where the individual elements of our cake unite into a symphony of flavors. Let's start with our whipped cream. We've whipped up a batch of double cream until it has formed firm peaks. This will give our cake a light, fluffy texture that contrasts beautifully with the richness of our other ingredients. Next, we need to warm our salted caramel sauce. We'll pop it in the microwave until it's just liquid enough to drizzle. We want it to be pourable, but not too runny. Remember, we're aiming for a luxurious drizzle, not a flood. Now comes the fun part, layering. First, we'll take one of our cooled sponges and place it on our cake stand. We'll spread half of our whipped cream onto this base layer, creating a cloud-like cushion for the caramel sauce. Then we'll drizzle half of our warmed salted caramel sauce over the cream. The caramel will seep into the sponge and cream, infusing them with a sweet and salty richness. We'll then repeat this process with the second sponge, the rest of the whipped cream, and the remaining caramel sauce. Layering these components not only creates a stunning visual effect, but also distributes our flavors evenly throughout the cake. Finally, we'll place our third sponge on top and spread our glossy chocolate glaze over it. The glaze will trickle down the sides of the cake, creating a waterfall of chocolate that's as beautiful to look at as it is delicious to taste. To finish, we'll top the cake with our homemade chocolate shards, adding a touch of elegance and a delightful crunch. And there you have it, our masterpiece is ready. This cake is a testament to the beauty of baking, where simple ingredients can come together to create something truly extraordinary. This chocolate salted caramel cake is more than just a dessert. It's a celebration of flavors, a feast for the senses, and a surefire way to impress anyone lucky enough to get a slice. Enjoy! And there you have it, a decadent chocolate salted caramel cake made from scratch. We've journeyed from gathering the finest ingredients to crafting a velvety sponge, a luscious salted caramel sauce, and a glossy chocolate glaze. The assembly brought together these elements, creating a symphony of flavors in every slice. Remember, patience and passion are your secret ingredients. Congratulations, you've mastered the art of creating the perfect chocolate salted caramel cake. Enjoy this decadent delight and don't forget to share your creations. Stay tuned for more delicious tutorials. Happy baking!